World War II was raging in Europe from 1939 to 1945, but female spies began receiving training to be serious intelligence gatherers, radio operators, and other important jobs. Many women were already used as spies, normally seductresses. Then the Allies realized they could do so much more with these intelligent, clever women. Female spies changed the course of espionage. Now, women are used for intelligence gathering in other countries using the same tactics as the women in World War II. The spies of the OSS and French resistance gathered information from the Axis powers and gave the Allies enough intel to win the war. However, many died, and the women had to make many sacrifices.
Female spies, World War II. Female spies were used very commonly in World War I. They were used to seduce men and get their secrets. According to Simone Payment in her book American Women Spies, World War II, in the United States, female spies were used in the Revolutionary War and Civil War. But it wasn't until World War II that they became an official and incredibly important part of the war efforts. Before the war, there was much tension between the Axis powers and the Allies. Expecting a war, the Allies began the BSIS, or the British Secret Intelligence Service. Soon after, America formed the OSS, or the Office of Strategic Service, which would eventually become the CIA. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Britain and France declared war on Germany, the official marking of the beginning of World War II.
Soon after the beginning of the war, Britain created the Double Cross. The Double Cross would capture German spies all throughout the war and hire them as British double agents. Women were mistreated by the Nazis in occupied countries even more than men. For example, in the summer of 1940 in the south of France, women had to wear shorts exactly a half-inch below the knee. If they did not meet the dress code, they could be arrested or even sent to concentration camps. This made women outraged. They wanted to do something in the war to end Nazi reign. In 1941, the French resistance was formed, and just months later, Hélène Deschamps became the first female spy in World War II.
She was only 17 when she volunteered. What she didn't know was that she would be the first of thousands of women to join the fight against the Nazis. Her clever and cunning was at first recognized by the resistance leaders when she came up with a very innovative idea. Wherever they heard Nazi cars and trucks coming down the road, they would put nails on the road, pulling up to pop the tires of the cars. After several more clever ideas and strategies, she was assigned to the Serious Intelligence Gathering. In an interview, Helene said, "The resistance was so secret, I couldn't even tell my mother about it." She didn't know the importance of her job until after the war. Then, in 1942, she was forced to move to Vichy, the current capital of France. There, she became secretary to a man who ran a section of the Gestapo, or the Nazi secret police.
This man was incredibly cruel. He would ask Helene to pick a drawer on his desk. The drawers had papers with people who were against Nazism or were Jewish. He would pick random papers from the drawer that Helene picked, and then he would take the names and order them to be arrested, killed, or sent to concentration camps. But Helene would sneak in early, already having a drawer in mind. She would take papers from this drawer, tear them up, and flush them down the toilet, thus saving the people whose names were on the papers. Eventually, Helene got tired with the fighting within the resistance, so she and her sister joined the OSS and spent the rest of the war carrying out missions there.
Another spy from World War II was Josephine Baker. She was American, but a member of the French resistance. She was a singer and actor in Europe before the war until she was recruited by the BSIS in 1942. She traveled to shows in Germany and performed. She would seduce men after her show, gather information, and write it on her music sheets in invisible ink. She would then deliver the information to the BSIS and French resistance.
Probably one of the most famous World War II spies, Virginia Hall was one of the Gestapo's most wanted allies. They gave her the nickname of the Limping Lady because of her prosthetic left leg that she named Cuthbert. During a cocktail party, a stranger walked up to Hall, handed her a business card, and told her, "If you're really interested in stopping Hitler, come see me." The stranger was none other than the notorious Vera Atkins. Atkins was recruiting agents for Secret Service for Winston Churchill. Hall was recruited because of her knowledge of the French countryside and her ability to speak multiple languages, including French and German. She was sent to France under a new identity as a news reporter for the New York Post. She sent back coded messages in her nightly news reports about Nazis' troop movements and results of sabotage missions. She was also a part of derailing trains and blowing 4 bridges. After her identity had been compromised by the Germans, she fled to Spain. It was a grueling 50-mile journey across the Pyrenees mountain range with her prosthetic leg. She was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross and worked in the CIA until she was 60 years old.
At the beginning of the war, female spies started off the same way they did in World War I. They were used as seductresses and never received serious training. But World War II was a turning point for women in espionage. They began receiving training, they became just as good, if not better than men in their programs. They became a critical part of the war effort and ended up shortening the war to 6 years instead of a possible 9 to 10-year war. Many women used as radio operators, secret agents, and even a few fought in the battles. They're also behind the scenes helping with planning, receiving, and conveying information from other spies, and forging fake IDs and other papers. Being a spy was very dangerous at the time. Many spies would attempt to bribe their way to certain areas or to get information. But if they got caught by someone of a higher power, they could get killed, arrested, or sent to a concentration camp. Women who get shot for things as simple as carrying American cigarettes.
One of the most dangerous times of the war was the Blitzkrieg, or lightning storm. The Germans would drop bombs non-stop for days on end in one city. Holland fell in just 4 days. France was occupied and leaderless, and thousands of people died after stating that they were against Nazism or being betrayed by their friends who would get rewards for turning people in. Women had to be extremely clever and cunning to avoid getting caught, and if they were caught, they would be tortured for their information and eventually killed. Some of the women were so clever they could turn everyday tasks like shelling peas into intelligence gathering. For example, for every gun a woman sees while shelling peas on her porch, she will put a pea in one bowl. Every time a troop walks by, she puts a pea in a different bowl. It was women like this who could really make a difference in the war.
Winston Churchill decided to take action. He created the SOE, the Special Operations Executive. Churchill said, "I want no German to walk down the street without looking over his shoulder and fearing for his life, that there was an SOE agent behind him." The leaders of the SOE decided that women would be a good fit for the job. They can be just as capable of the physical part and even better at getting information while doing their jobs. There were 3 stages of training for women and men. First was an intelligence test. Then came the boot camp to train them physically. Finally, the first 2 stages were combined in simulations of real events. Then the new SOE agents were sent into occupied territory. There, they carried out dangerous sabotage missions like blowing up bridges or assassinations.
In World War II, female spies began receiving training to be serious intelligence gatherers, radio operators, and other important jobs. Many women were already used as spies, normally seductresses. Then the Allies realized they could do so much more with these intelligent, clever women. Female spies changed the course of espionage. Now women are used for intelligence gathering in other countries using the same tactics as women in World War II. One victory is that the spies of the OSS and French resistance gathered information from the Axis powers and gave the Allies enough intel to win the war. A tragedy, however, is that many died and the women had to make many sacrifices.